Welcome to Who's Number One. I'm Trey Wingo. 3 words, just 3 little words. The Fall Classic. Nothing else needs to be said. People knew what you meant when you said it generations ago, and they know what you mean today. The Fall Classic, timeless, peerless, as old as typewriters and corsets, as young as cell phones and computers. The World Series evokes images of golden twilight shadows and apple cider nights. ESPN Classic studied film clips, history books, and even radio broadcasts to select the 20 best World Series of all time. So here come the classics of the Fall Classic.
2020.
The Braves won the first 2 games of that series.
Runner goes hit deep in the air.
They went into Yankee Stadium and just beat the heck out of them.
Talk up another one. Andrew Jones, second home run of the game.
And I'm thinking, this thing's going to be over in 4 games. The Braves are going to sweep. They're going to win again.
They look like a super team, one of the greatest teams of all time. And that Yankee squad couldn't possibly come back on them.
Then we get to Atlanta, and the whole thing changes.
That one hit in the air to right field. It is deep in his way back. Goodbye! Home run, Bernie Williams.
The Yankees got off the deck in Game 3 of the 1996 World Series, helped by Bernie Williams' home run.
Game 3 belongs to New York.
It's 2-1, and who does Joe Torre give the ball to in Game 4? Kenny Rogers. Atlanta's leading 6-0. With the Yankees having crawled back to 6-3, Jim Leyritz comes to the plate, and Mark Wohlers is on the mound. And here, ladies and gentlemen, comes one of the greatest moments in postseason history.
2-2 pitch. Hit in the air. Deep left field. Playing back. Andrew Jones at the wall. Looking. Goodbye. Home run. Tie game.
And then Wade Boggs, in the Baseball Hall of Fame for his hitting,
3-2 pitch.
draws a walk.
The Yankees take the lead.
Having been swept at home in the first 2 games, the Yanks became the sweepers, winning 4 straight. It was their first World Series win since 1978.
1990.
There's a swing. A long drive deep to right. Here's a chance. It is gone. Darren Erstad.
The thing I remember about that Angels lineup was just how relentless they were. David Eckstein, Darren Erstad.
They play at tremendous intensity level.
These really gamer type of guys.
And Erstad is the guy who pretty much taught them how to play and how to win. The way we're going to play this game is hard, fellas, every game.
Needing only one more win and leading 5-0 in the 7th inning of Game 6, Giants manager Dusty Baker lifted starter Russ Ortiz and awarded him the game ball.
And the Angels took offense at this thing and thought the Giants were prematurely celebrating.
First and second, 1 out, 5-0. You cannot take Russ Ortiz out of the game. Baseball games are marathons. And what Dusty tried to do in Game 6, he tried to sprint to the finish line.
The Angels then scored 6 unanswered runs to cap the biggest comeback ever for a team facing World Series elimination. They then won the 7th game 4-1, earning the franchise's first World Championship.
80.
In the shattering noise of their domed home, the Twins pounded the Cardinals in the first 2 games of the '87 World Series by a combined score of 18-5.
Playing in the dome is always very tough. The noise level in there was the equivalent of a 747 taking off. It was one of the reasons we weren't able to win a game there.
The Cardinals' middle relief could not stop the Twins in Minnesota.
Helped by strong performances by Danny Cox and John Tudor, the Cardinals won all 3 in their home park. But back in the chaos of the Thunderdome, they couldn't hold a 5-2 lead.
So here comes Daly.
The Twins went ahead 6-5 in the 5th and loaded the bases in the 6th.
When the Cardinals brought in Ken Daly to pitch to Kent Herbeck, who was, of course, the local hero, Minneapolis guy, that was one of the great moments I've ever spent in a Major League ballpark.
And Herbeck hits a high drive to deep center field. McGee goes back. Grand slam.
It wasn't until that grand slam, you know, the hopes kind of went out of the window.
Frank Viola gave up 2 early runs and then shut down the Cardinals 4-2.
I don't care about home field advantage or anything else. Twins deserve to win that series.
First time ever, the Minnesota Twins are the world champions.
17. In 1947, I became an instant Jackie Robinson fan. He brought a new dimension to the game, speed and power.
To this day, nobody's ever come along to equal what Jackie did to the stands, to the fans. Of course, it was the feeling after losing in 41 that maybe Brooklyn, now with Jackie Robinson and this really exciting team, would finally win a World Series.
Sparked by Tommy Heinrich, the Yankees led 2-1 after 3 contests. In Game 4, New York's Bill Bevins was on the doorstep of history. Leading 2-1, he was 1 out away from pitching the first World Series no-hitter.
Bill Bevins was pitching a no-hitter, and Bucky Harris, the manager of the Yankees, decides to walk the lead run with 2 out in the 9th inning, a gamble unheard of in baseball. Cookie Lavagetto hits a double off the wall, 2-run score. Brooklyn wins.
There was more high drama in Game 6. Brooklyn's Al Gianfrido, a substitute outfielder, ranged to the boundaries of Yankee Stadium to rob Joe DiMaggio of a possible 3-run homer.
And Gianfrido made it a great catch by misplaying the ball the way he did. It really wasn't that great of a catch.
The Dodgers won 8-6, but the next day the Yankees added to their dynasty with a 5-2 clincher.
16.
The whole series was a great series, and it just capped off with a memorable moment.
Touch 'em all, Joe! You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life!
Yes, we were on the wrong side of it, but now looking back, I was a part of history.
The 1993 World Series pitted Toronto's cast of all-stars against the Scruffians of Philadelphia. The two combined for a memorable Game 4, won by the Blue Jays 15-14.
He's at the wall, he looks up, there she goes!
It was a very entertaining World Series because the Philadelphia Phillies were gangsters in baseball uniforms.
In the deciding Game 6, with the Phillies down 5-1 in the 7th inning, Lenny Dykstra clubbed his 4th homer of the series to cut the deficit to 1 run. The Phils took a 6-5 lead into the 9th.
Jim Fregosi went to our closer. And people to this day in Philadelphia think that we shouldn't have used Mitch Williams. If it wasn't for Mitch Williams, we don't get to the World Series.
So you look at the people that Mitch had to face that inning. Rickey Henderson, Hall of Famer. Paul Molitor, Hall of Famer.
Swing, line drive into center. Charged by Dykstra. It's a base hit in front of him.
And Joe Carter, possible Hall of Famer. It's an unfair judgment on Mitch Williams and the Phillies. The Blue Jays were just better.
Here's the pitch on the way. A swing and a belt. Left field. Way back. Blue Jays win it. Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run in the 9th inning, and the Blue Jays have repeated as World Series champions.
I made the mistake, and it was a mistake. Joe Carter to this day still thinks he hit a slider. It was just a really bad fastball.
I just got off the field because I didn't want to be a part of that. I didn't want to see any of it. I don't even know if he touched first base. I didn't even want to know.
Well, win the World Series on a home run, I mean, count on one hand how often it's happened, and still have some fingers left.
15.
The 1946 World Series is on.
It was billed as the World Series pitting baseball's 2 leading hitters, Williams of the Red Sox, Musial of the Cardinals. As so often happens in a World Series, neither Williams nor Musial led the way for their teams.
The two teams took turns winning the first 6 games.
The Red Sox at that point, it seems impossible to conceive of now, had never lost World Series. They were heavily favored to beat the Cardinals.
All the folklore of the Red Sox had not materialized then. All right, they hadn't won since 1918. It was that point, it was 28 years, but they were the team. They had dominated the American League.
In one of baseball's most dramatic moments, with Game 7 knotted at 3 apiece in the 8th inning, Enos Country Slaughter took off from first on Harry the Hat Walker's hit to left center and didn't hesitate all the way around.
The relay throw was made to Johnny Pesky, and the folklore is that Johnny Pesky, quote, held the ball. Well, of course, Johnny Pesky was waiting for somebody to tell him with his back to the plate where to throw it.
I was on second, and everybody said, well, Doran should have been calling out the play, but I can't say that I did or didn't call a play, but 32, 33,000 people yelling. Johnny wouldn't have heard anybody yelling if he did.
Slaughter added to the Slaughter legend, or cemented it, frankly, by scoring from first. It's a great tribute to Enos Slaughter, and the fact is that it should be remembered as that much more than the idea that Johnny Pesky held the ball.
The best team wins. Well, you can't say, well, because of this and that, and alibi this and that. The Cardinals played good ball, and they beat us.
14.
The imperfect man threw the perfect game, the great headline of all time.
Before that series, he was never a great pitcher. He was maybe never even a very good pitcher.
That day, the son of a gun had good stuff.
Don Larson's stuff was so good in Game 5 of the '56 World Series that he went where no pitcher had gone before.
Larson has retired 24 men in a row.
When you see somebody pitching a perfect game like that, if you're on the other side, you're almost like to see it happen. Even though this is in a World Series, we don't want it to happen.
I took my hat off and wiped my brow, and I've probably said a little prayer. I probably said, "Oh man, get me through one more."
Brooklyn had begun the World Series with a bang, winning the first 2 games, scoring 19 runs, with Gil Hodges belting a key homer. Larson had been knocked out in the second inning of Game 2.
Because they'd lost the year before. The Yankees were really interested in getting the Dodgers.
Game 5, Game 6, and Game 7, we got 1 run in 3 games. The best hitting team in the National League didn't hit.
While Yogi Berra homered twice in Game 7, it's Larson's perfection in Game 5 that glows like candlelight.
13.
Bobby Clemente showed the world what he was in the 1971 series. He carried the Pirates to a world championship.
Although the Pirates lost the first 2 games to the Orioles, the series would belong to Roberto Clemente. He batted .414 with a dozen hits and was named MVP.
Speed, power, defense, arm. You talk about 5-tool players. I mean, he was it.
Try to pitch him outside, he did a home run to right field. If you pitch him inside, he'd pull it to left field. We tried everything, and he just hit everything.
Clemente grabs it, whirls. Here's Retman coming, the throw.
We had a fight to get back to the 7th game, but all of a sudden...
That is hit well.
In Game 7, Clemente slugged his second series homer, and Steve Blass pitched a complete game 2-1 title clincher.
And finally, at long last, Roberto Clemente was given the credit for being the great ball player that he was.
12.
And he hits one in the air to deep right field. Van Slyke is going back as if he has a play, and he does. A great pass.
I'll never forget walking in the locker room after we lost the second game, or shell-shocked, because the Cardinals really didn't impress us that much.
The Cardinals win it by a score of 3-1.
And I can't believe we lost 2 games in a row to these guys.
Rips it toward the gap in right center field, and this game is tied.
We didn't look at ourselves as being the greatest team ever assembled, but we were pretty effective with the way we played.
The Kansas City Royals rebound from a gut-wrenching loss and beat the Cardinals.
It was an all-Missouri World Series in 1985, and St. Louis ace John Tudor beat Kansas City twice in Games 1 and 4. But the Royals took Game 5 and headed home down 3-2.
The Cardinals need 3 outs to win the World Series.
The Cardinals led 1-0 in the 9th inning of Game 6, when a controversial call by first base umpire Don Denkinger swung momentum.
A squibber to the right side. Worrell races over to throw. Doesn't get him.
You could see very clearly that Todd Worrell had the ball and his foot was on the base before George Orta got to first base.
Looks like he's out. Well, I don't think there's any doubt about it.
By all rights, if that call's not made, we probably win in that game 1-0 and win that series.
George's two-run single gave Kansas City the victory, and the Royals torched the rattled Cards 11-0 in Game 7 behind Brett Saberhagen.
11.
There was something really special going on with the 79 Pirates. That was the We Are Family Pirates.
This was a team that had a cohesion that I think few teams have had.
And right in the middle was Hall of Famer Willie Stargell.
But the Pirates were neck-deep in trouble from the start as the Orioles scored 24 runs in the first 4 games.
We did what we had to do 3 out of the first 4 games. Their pitching didn't look that good. We just stopped hitting.
It was all like they flipped on a switch. Let's go get them.
Willie Stargell did what an MVP is supposed to do, batting .400 and lashing 12 hits as the Pirates became the 4th team in history to recover from a 3-1 deficit. And welcome back into Who's Number One. In this edition, we're counting down the 20 best World Series of all time. We're halfway home. Here's a recap. 1996, Yankees over Braves.
1990.
2002, Angels over Giants. 1987, Twins over Cardinals.
17.
1947, Yanks over Dodgers.
16.
1993, Blue Jays over Phillies.
15.
1946, Cardinals over Red Sox.
14.
1956, Yankees over Dodgers.
13.
1971, Pirates over Orioles.
12.
1985, Royals over Cardinals.
11.
1979, Pirates over Orioles. We now continue with the countdown. We pick it up with number 10.
10.
Tigers hadn't been in it for eons. Most of the people who had played for the Tigers on the last World Series were either in homes or cemeteries.
And they had Dennis McLain win 31 games. And yet, Denny McLain would not be the star of the '68 World Series.
The night before, the Tigers are at their hotel in St. Louis. McLain's playing the organ, and the players are standing around singing. You know, they were taking the World Series real seriously. The next day, Gibson struck out 17 guys.
Those 17 strikeouts were a World Series record, but the Tigers were unfazed and rebounded behind Mickey Lolich's complete game. The Cards replied with some rebounding of their own, winning Game 3 and beating McLain again in Game 4.
Well, remember the feeling going into that was, what are we going to do now if Denny stumbles again? Well, maybe he was out too late, and maybe he didn't take care of himself.
The Tigers took care of themselves, however, taking Game 5 and then behind McLain, Game 6. That earned him another date with Gibson, but it was Lolich who shined.
Everybody conceded that Gibson was the favorite to win because he always won the big game. There was no doubt.
It would be Mickey Lolich who would save the bacon. And here we are, scoreless ball game, and Jim Northrup hits this ball to center field. And the great Curt Flood initially breaks in.
And when he broke in, the right foot was stuck in mud, and he really never had a chance to recover.
We just got outplayed. Had a 3-1 lead and lost it.
You know, we were just a bunch of long hairs from Oakland and, with colorful uniforms and white shoes, and, no one really paid that much attention to us.
A team that apparently didn't get along very well because occasionally brawling would break out in the clubhouse, but what a wonderful team.
They had the long hair, the mustache, and we were all clean-shaven and short hairs. I mean, that was the policy of the Cincinnati Reds.
With Reggie Jackson sidelined by injury for the '72 World Series, Gene Tennis, an unlikely hero, stepped into the void. He belted 2 home runs in Game 1 to lead Oakland to victory. After the Reds and A's split the next 2 games, Tennis homered again in Oakland's 3-2 win in Game 4.
One thing I remember about the series is that there was 6 one-run games. I mean, a lot of the stuff kind of fell on my shoulders.
And he pops it up. Perez back. Morgan going and takes it in foul ground. Here comes Odom, and he is out. The ball game is over. A double play.
Cincinnati won the next 2 games, but Oakland took Game 7. Another one-run affair. Tennis had an RBI double, and Raleigh Fingers preserved the 3-2 win.
I think they had more experience at that time than we had. We were very good, but we were one stride, and it was going to take just a couple more years to make us what I would call pure greatness.
When 2 great clubs meet, there's only can be one winner, and at that time Oakland did. In fact, for the next 3 years, while they were the world champions.
8.
3 home runs off of 3 pitchers on the first swing. It was an amazing night to have been in the ballpark.
It was my first World Series as a manager, and the guy hit 3 home runs in 1 game, and it happened to be against us. I wasn't particularly happy.
The Yankees leaped to a 3-1 lead over the Dodgers in the 1977 World Series. But Don Sutton's route-going win in Game 5 brought one more tomorrow for Los Angeles.
When you linked Los Angeles and New York, you linked the whole nation.
After the first 3 innings of Game 6, the Dodgers led 3-2. And then the Reggie Jackson home run machine kicked into gear. He hammered 3 round-trippers worth 5 runs in 3 consecutive at-bats to lead an 8-4 title clincher.
I was a fan and a player, and was both at the same time.
You know, you just got the feeling, the way he rose to the occasion, kind of like a Muhammad Ali, that unless he ran out of at-bats, he was going to keep doing it. Just keep hitting homer after homer after homer.
Perhaps the single greatest performance in a singular World Series game.
The man for a day was nice.
7.
In 1955, the Dodgers lose the first 2 games.
The Dodgers were always the wait till next year team because every year they would play the Yankees and lose.
Here we go again. I've been here before. 47, 49, 52, 53. Are they ever gonna win one?
And Jackie Robinson was now 37, old, overweight, his skills eroded, pulls off a steal in the first game, which doesn't bring victory, but I think is a psychological page-turner. Yogi Berra to this day insists that Robinson was out, but from that point on, the Dodgers feel they can do it.
They proved they could do it with 3 straight wins, with Duke Snider smacking 3 home runs and Johnny Padres pitching a complete game win to stop the Yankees' momentum. But New York rallied behind Whitey Ford's second win of the series to force Game 7.
Johnny Padres almost was not added to the postseason roster, and now it's the 7th game of the World Series, and he's on enemy turf.
Johnny Padres had a good fastball, but he had a great changeup.
His changeup that particular day, oh man.
In an MVP performance, Padres completely neutralized and frustrated the power-hitting Yankees 2-0.
Bless him. Johnny Padres was able to win, and Brooklyn won its one and only World Series.
6.
Most people you talk to, especially the Yankees, will tell you it should have never gone to 7 games. The Pirates couldn't have been a bigger underdog. The Yankees won all 3 of their games by colossal routes.
16-3, 10-0. And the Pirates somehow in a position to win the World Series despite absorbing these beatings.
The Yankees won 3 games in the 1960 World Series by a combined score of 38-3. Yet somehow, the Pirates forced a Game 7.
People talk about the great games in the history of the World Series. There was no better game, no more dramatic game than the 7th game of the 1960 series.
Pittsburgh scored 5 in the 8th, capped by Hal Smith's 3-run homer. Then the Yankees rallied in the 9th, setting the stage for the second baseman of the Pirates.
So we're tied up 9-9. The first pitch from Terry, high and inside, ball on the man.
I went to the bench, and I was just sitting there, and I didn't know I was up. Somebody yelled, "Maz, you're the hitter." I forgot I was on deck.
And the first pitch was high, and Maz was a notorious high ball hitter, well known even as a 24-year-old.
And I called the wrong pitch. I called a slider. Slider forgot to slide.
Here's a swing and a high fly ball going deep to left. They do it. Back to the wall goes Berra. It is over the Pirates'
Just about the time I hit second base, I looked down the left field line, and there's that umpire giving it this. Next thing I know, I'm up in the clubhouse and got the reporters all around me, and I missed out on the champagne.
5-5-5.
So what was special about the '64 World Series? Bob Gibson.
That was all about how one guy could turn a series.
This was the first World Series that Bob Gibson came to the national stage, and people began to say, this guy is all business, and he'd knock his mother down if he had to.
New York lost Game 1, but managed to beat Bob Gibson in Game 2. Then lost to him in Game 5 on a 10th-inning Tim McCarver homer. The Yankees were long in the tooth, but still had bite, and forced a Game 7.
They were getting a little age on them. You know, they were an awful lot of veteran players on the team, and we were a young, upcoming team, really.
Everybody got some real clutch hit. Some of the guys who hit 300 in a series went unnoticed. I was one of them.
And the very last game of the series, Bob Gibson was really struggling. When the Yankees began to sort of close in, it looked like Gibson would be taken out of the game.
Leading 7-3 in the 9th inning, Gibson was touched for a pair of solo home runs, and then Gibby slammed the door.
Johnny Keenan, manager of the Cardinals, when they asked him why he left him in the game, he said, "I was committed to his heart."
This guy was so tough, so strong, even if his arm was going south, somehow or other, he would manage to win the game, and that's what he did.
4-4.
This was the ultimate home field advantage World Series. You're wearing white, you're going to win the game.
After losing the first 2 games of the 1991 World Series, Atlanta went home and took 3 from Minnesota. Game 6 went into the bottom of the 11th inning tie. The Twins' Kirby Puckett faced Charlie Libre.
Chili Davis and I on deck, and I said, Chili, what do you think, man, dog? If I bunt right here and get on base, I know I can bunt off Charlie. I can bunt one of them change-ups, get it down, and get on base. You can drive me in. And Chili looked me right in the face, and he said, hit one the F out of here.
As far as I'm concerned, I think Smoltz and Morris are still out there pitching. Neither one of those guys was going to give in.
I didn't care who won, and I could not sit in my seat. That's how riveting it was.
Jack got in a situation, man. Somehow, that Jack Morris, man, he would get out of it.
Double play.
Both ball clubs had bases loaded with chances to score and didn't do it.
Line drive, double play.
They get to the 10th inning, and Jack Morris is still in the game. Tom Kelly comes out, and Jack Morris looks at him like, what are you doing out here? I'm not coming out of this game. Tom Kelly ends up walking right back and leaves Jack Morris in.
The score was all zeros in the bottom of the 10th when Braves closer Alejandro Pena faced Gene Larkin with the bases loaded.
Jack Morris gets my vote for the Hall of Fame every year, just for that one game, because it was the greatest pitch game I ever saw.
3.
That Big Red Machine, boy, they could play. I mean, they could really play.
Look at all these great players with Griffey and Dreesen and Rose and Morgan and Bench.
Talent and true professionals meet.
Needing only one more win to capture the 1975 World Series, Cincinnati led Boston 6-3 in Game 6.
Game 6 was probably the biggest game of the series, really. I mean, for both sides. Bernie Carbo hits a 3-run home run in the 8th inning.
Deep center field, way back. We're tied up.
Boom, bang, zoom into the center field seats and sets the stage for Carlton Fisk.
That ball up there seemed like it hung for 5 minutes, and I was just watching it go like that.
If it stays fair, home run. We will have a 7th game in this 1975 World Series.
It was devastating to us, but at the same time, we knew there was going to be a 7th game.
Boston led 3-0 in Game 7, but Tony Perez slugged a 2-run homer, Pete Rose's single tied it, and Joe Morgan's 9th inning RBI single was the game winner.
We've come from behind and look like we're dead, but we never die.
2.
How in the world can a team in its 4th year of existence beat the New York Yankees, who are going for 4 World Series in a row?
This ball is gone. The Diamondbacks have opened it up.
The Diamondbacks allowed the Yankees only 3 runs the first 3 games of the 2001 World Series, and were looking to go ahead 3-1 in the 9th inning of Game 4.
No one who was there will ever forget Games 3, 4, and 5 in New York City.
1 on, 2 out. Martinez hits one to deep right center field. Tie game.
This is soon after 9/11. People are crushed about what happened, and the Yankees win these 3 games the way that they did.
Jeter swings, and it's a drive deep into right field. Sanders back to the wall. It is gone. The Yankees have won it.
For the 2nd straight night, the Yankees tied the game with a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 9th.
Brosius hits one in the left. At the wall. The Yankees have tied it again.
Poor Byung-Hyun Kim, after he gave up another home run. It was like he was in the Little League again. And he was crying on the mound.
Into right field, base hit. Here comes Knobloch. Play at the plate, Yankees win.
You just got the sense that if it came down to the last 2 games, Arizona had these 2 amazing horses, Johnson and Schilling.
Randy Johnson did his part, winning Game 6. But Alfonso Soriano's homer off Schilling gave the Yankees a 2-1 lead in the 8th. New York went to its ace closer.
Mariano Rivera takes over on the mound.
When Rivera came in with a 1-run lead, I thought our chances were rather dim.
In the center field, a good start for Arizona.
Even when there were runners on base, I still felt as though it was over.
Who else would you rather have than Mariano Rivera, protecting a 1-run lead in the 9th inning? But he beat himself on a wild throw.
Throw to second, into center field, and it's 2 on with nobody out.
He had 1 error in his career. He makes number 2 in the biggest inning of the Yankee season.
Into right field, a hit. It's 2-2. And a little Cooper. Big field. Diamondbacks win. The Diamondbacks have unseated the New York Yankees as a world champion.
And welcome back to Who's Number 1 of the 20 greatest World Series of all time. Here's what we've seen so far. 1996, Yankees over Braves. 2002, Angels over Giants. 1987, Twins over Cardinals. 1947, Yanks over Dodgers. 1993, Blue Jays over Phillies. 1946, Cardinals over Red Sox. 1956, Yankees over Dodgers.
13.
1971, Pirates over Orioles.
12.
1985, Royals over Cardinals.
11.
1979, Pirates over Orioles.
10.
1968, Tigers over Cardinals.
9.
1972, A's over Reds.
8.
1977, Yankees over Dodgers.
7.
1955, Dodgers over Yankees.
6.
1960, Pirates over Yankees.
5.
1964, Cardinals over Yankees.
4.
1991, Twins over Braves.
3.
1975, Reds over Red Sox.
2.
2001, D-backs over Yankees. Trumpets, please, for number one, the best World Series that's ever been.
1.
You had a great team, which was supposed to win, the Mets, but which was running out of gas at the end.
Strike 3 call. And that's hit down the left field line. It is in there. 0-2. Got him. And so Roger Clemens announces his presence at Shea Stadium.
We were down 2-0 going to Fenway Park. And I remember Davey Johnson on the off day saying, you guys just need to go to the hotel and just rest. When we came to the ballpark the next day, we came out of the gates like gangbusters.
High drive.
The Mets put up a 4 spot in the first inning of Game 3 of the '86 World Series, won that one and took 2 out of 3 in Boston. But in the 10th inning of Game 6, Dave Henderson hit a solo homer, and the Red Sox added another run to take a 5-3 lead.
They're 2 outs and they're 1 strike away, and I'm thinking, this is it. The Red Sox are going to finally win. It's been forever.
They are now 1 out away from a World Series championship.
Keith Hernandez was in the clubhouse drinking a beer, thinking, we're done.
With 2 out, they come scrambling back with consecutive hits by Carter, Mitchell, and Knight. And it's going to go to the backstop. Here comes Mitchell to score the tying run.
And suddenly, the World Series is still going.
3-2 to Mookie Wilson.
The worst thing that could have happened is that I strike out. And I wasn't about to let that happen.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
By no means in that clubhouse were we going to roll over and play dead. We had a 3-0 lead in the 7th inning in the 7th game.
We almost got beaten in the NLCS. We almost got beaten in the World Series. Even though we started Game 7, losing 3-0 right off the bat, we're going, oh well, here we go. Come back again.
The Mets tied Game 7 at 3-3 with Keith Hernandez stroking the key hit.
High drive, back goes Rice. This one is gone.
Then they took the lead on Ray Knight's solo homer in the 7th and went on to an 8-5 championship win.
He struck it out. The Mets have won the World Series.
Everything happened so fast. By the time I got up, my whole team was already sitting on me.
Every time somebody says something about, hey, thank you for '86, and I say, thank you.
Should Red Sox manager John McNamara have replaced Bill Buckner at first? Did he make the right decisions with his pen? Questions, always questions. The World Series stage is large and the lights are hot, and every decision is picked apart. The Fall Classic is paradise for second-guessers, and so is ESPN Classic's ranking for our resident second-guessers, those kings of woulda, coulda, shoulda, the venerable Bert Sugar and baseball sage Nick Acacella. Gentlemen.
Nick, best World Series.
Well, just throw this list away, because the 2 best aren't even on the list. The 1924 World Series is number 1.
I got that
no
second.
Question. You got that? What do you got first?
1912.
I make that second. 1924, you've got a bunch of 1-run games.
It's between the Giants and the Senators.
The Giants and the Senators.
Walter Johnson losing 2 games.
Losing 2 games. Comes in relief in the 7th game. In the 9th inning, the Senators tie the score on a base hit by player-manager Bucky Harris that hits a pebble and goes over Freddie Lindstrom, the Giants' third baseman's head.
P.S. We haven't
ties the game.
We haven't heard the last of that pebble.
We have not heard the last of that pebble. I think it's the same pebble.
It is.
In the 12th inning, the same thing happens with the winning run.
With Earl McNeely.
Now, that's exciting.
Now, look at 1912. John McGraw's got another team in there, this time against the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox win 3 of the first 4 games, and the Giants win the next 2 and tie it at 3-3. We go to the 7th game, extra innings again. The Giants go up with a run in the top of the 10th. And here come the Red Sox. Tris Speaker pops up foul, and nobody calls for the ball.
It just drops.
And on the next pitch, he drills a ball. And they go on to win in extra innings in what I think was one of the greatest World Series, if not the greatest ever.
Yeah, I'll go with 24-12 in that order.
But where is it on this list?
It's not even on the list. It's not even. I mean, I'll agree. 1986 was a great series.
Except I'll tell you what, it suffers from a problem in addition. It's the sixth game.
It's the 6th game that's the high dramatics. The 7th game was a good game, but it was not the game, the seminal game of the series.
By that, it has to drop.
Yeah, it has to drop.
But it basically is a good list. It could be much better if they'd added in 12 and 24.
And that'll do it for this edition of Who's Number One. Thanks for joining us for ESPN Classic's ranking of the 20 best World Series of all time. We will be back to continue our countdown of the athletes, the teams, and the events that have shaped our world in sports. Until then, I'm Trey Wingo. Let the debating begin.